He's a champion of socio-economic transformation and financial inclusion. He's envisioned a recovery plan for Africa and is putting it into action. I caught up with James Mwangi to discover how he's going to do it.
Thank you very much, Zain. We learned a couple of things. The first one is how fragile the African economy was. The second one is how dependent it was on global supply chains. And the third one is the vulnerability of people. And the vulnerability of people became very, very pronounced when you looked at the increased poverty levels, the disruptions of livelihoods, and disruption of business. And we also lastly realized that the African continent or the African economy was over-dependent on the global economy and had no much headroom, particularly on fiscal and monetary policy. As a result, when crisis hit, the governments didn't have enough room for maneuver and could not carry out expansionist policies that would have acted as stimulus to recover the economy. So it has been a long journey. However, one thing also came out that the economies, despite how fragile they were resilient and could easily be built back better. So we saw the entire African economy going down by 2.4% of its GDP, but projected to grow at 5% this year.
James, how have you combined the force of Equity Bank and Equity Group Foundation to help with, on the business side, on the development side, to help Africans during the pandemic? How has that actually worked?
Equity from the very beginning is a purpose-driven organization with the two engines, an economic engine that sustains it and scales it, and a social engine that focuses on and centers on people. So the purpose of the bank is to transform lives, give dignity, and expand opportunities for the African people. And the two engines reinforce each other and play in each other. The social engine ensures nobody is left behind and that equity remains centered on people. It's a people-centered business, and that nobody is left behind. The economic engine sustains, scales the business and bring sustainability into the business and provides for the cost of the entire business. As a result, equity is built around the core of the economies, what you could call lead economies, the economic activities that sustain populations. It is a community-based bank as a result of that. So when COVID struck, what Equity did was really then to use the social engine to try and save lives, uphold the dignity of the people despite the challenge, and sustain the lights of the economy on so that the economy could continue to provide opportunities for the people. That involved reducing as much as possible vulnerability and probability of any enterprise going down. So that's how we managed that. On the economic engine, we provided rescheduling of loans to ensure that we brought repayment to when cash flows were back. And in the process, we saved almost all the businesses that were in equity.
In your recovery plan for Africa that you've designed, you really focus on trade as a way to engage SMEs and create wealth while reducing poverty. Could you just explain to us how it will work?
We realized that our governments were challenged in the 6 countries we are operating in. Their debt to GDP ratios were in the up of 70, and that debt was proving unsustainable. We felt as a leading organization and financial service provider, we were well positioned to mobilize our partners and collaborators and try and drive a post-COVID recovery and transformational plan. That involved us signing to the framework of the East African Community, integration and cross-border trade, signing with the African Union for the African Continental Free Trade Area, and then signing with the governments on priorities for each of the countries and incentive schemes, and then with the United Nations so that we could use the Sustainable Development Goal framework, and then teaming with the international development banks. So Equity has rolled out $5 billion to be given to 5 million enterprises, each to create 10 jobs, and hence create 50 million jobs in the next 1 year. And the risk is shared with the UN agencies through capacity building so that we can de-risk the effort, and long-term lending to the development banks.
And how does that recovery plan focus on a sustainable green recovery? What does that look like to you?
It is purely centered on building back better. We're not rebuilding the East and Central African economy the way it was. And we felt that in building back better, the central focus will be on clean energy. So what we've really done is to guarantee the use of sustainable clean energy and remove of the second aspect is afforestation to guarantee recovery from a climate perspective. So that is where the focus has been, to ensure the recovery is green.
James Mwangi from Nairobi. Asante sana.